Okay, so here's what we got going on tonight. We are going to be doing Japanese whiskeys. And I guess the catalyst for this was I got a few samples from a distillery called Kanosuke, and they are in the southern tip of Japan. So I got 3 samples. We're going to talk about those, but I also was like, hey, you know what? It's been a little while since I have reviewed any, or not reviewed, but like talked about any Japanese whiskeys. Obviously, I put out the episode earlier, last Friday, about the 3-minute video all about Japanese. So I've kind of got this on my mind, and it seemed like something worth doing. So hopefully you guys are interested in a little bit of Japanese stuff. So what I'm going to do is I will open these eventually in a few minutes. What I want you all to do is, first off, if you're watching this, you should probably have a whiskey in your hand, right? But what I want you to do, if you haven't poured yet, is either, if you have something Japanese, absolutely pour that. But I want you to think about where you are sitting on the planet right now. And I want you to pick a whiskey from your collection that is the geographically furthest away from you, and then let me know in the chat what you ended up picking. I think that'll actually be really fun. I think a lot of people are probably going to end up putting Kavalan up there, or maybe just a Scotch, but I'd be interested to know if we get any weird ones in the chat. So let me know what you drink. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the history of Japanese whiskey. We're going to talk a little bit about this is going to take me a while to say properly. I've practiced like all these different names, but I forgot to practice this one a lot. So I'm going to just go with Kanosuke. Kanosuke. I listened to a few people and it was tough because a bunch of people pronounced it differently. So I'm just going to assume I'm saying it wrong. I'm going to assume I'm saying a lot of names wrong tonight, and I'm going to apologize in advance. Okay, so we've got Glenmorangie. That's pretty cool. Oh, I also I installed a little thing here, so I don't have to use StreamYard, and I can still have your comments show up. So definitely keep those comments coming. We got Talisker 8, Signatory Glen Talkers. I'm unfamiliar with that one. I'd have to Google it. It's Poland farther than Is Poland farther than Scotland? I would think so. Yeah, probably. Germany's definitely further. Anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about history. We're going to talk about Nikka. We're going to talk about Yamazaki. We're going to talk about Kanosuke. We're also going to talk a little bit about like identifying whiskeys, because there are still actually many on the shelves, not necessarily being sold anymore, but many on the shelves that do not necessarily fit the requirements of Japanese whiskey, at least not legally. I'm probably not going to bore you too much with like the legal requirements. That's for a regular video if you're interested in that. But then we are going to, I have a quiz for you guys. I should say trivia because quiz sounds like school. And then just going through my notes here, I have a few other things to talk about, but yeah, that's mostly it. We'll talk about coffee stills. That'll be fun because we're all nerds and that kind of stuff is fun for us. Let's see. Oh, we got Kikori. Wow, that's been a while. That was really early for me. I actually remember getting that in the mail from the Kikori. I guess it's probably a distillery. I don't quite remember much of them. What's up, Donner Pass? Nice to see you. Yeah, I didn't want to start off the stream, but I will absolutely be having my first drink in honor of Foodquig this week. So really sad for those of you that don't know, Foodquig, he was a YouTuber for a lot of years. I think his first video was in like 2008, not on his whiskey channel, but just on YouTube, which is nuts to think about. He reviewed whiskey forever, and he was live almost every day. I think he has over 4,000 videos on his channel. His channel never got huge, and his following was always like, his streams would have like maybe a couple people in them whenever you'd go in, but it was nice because you could jump in and you could actually talk to him, and he wasn't too busy to kind of read it off and actually respond. I'm going to miss the guy. You know, he's definitely one of the OGs. He's been doing it longer than I have. So yeah. All right, let's talk about Japanese whiskey. So there is a guy, his name is Masataka Takatsuru. He is considered the father of Japanese whiskey, and he is somebody that you've probably heard of if you've watched this channel for any given amount of time. He, I believe it was 1913 or 1918, went over to Scotland from Japan and essentially learned everything he could about whiskey making. He came back to Japan with these 2 notebooks, which I think one of them is on display, and they had everything there is to know about whiskey in them, or everything he had learned. And those 2 notebooks were like the original source of Japanese whiskey making, which very cool concept. He ended up starting up the Yamazaki Distillery with another guy named Shinjiro Tori. And Shinjiro actually went on to do other stuff, which he will talk about in a little bit as well. But the 2 of them went on to start up Yamazaki Distillery. Now, this is Yamazaki Distillery, this super old picture, of course, right? It's like sepia tone. And it's really neat to come across some of these old stuff. Like, I wouldn't call myself a history nerd, but some of the research I've had to do for this channel has gotten me to see some really interesting stuff. And just pictures like this, to know that they even exist, like, you can kind of see on the bottom left, you guys can't see my arrow, but on the bottom left of that picture, it looks like foliage of some sort. So I'm imagining some dude's just either in a tree or up on a big hill on the other side of this distillery and taking a picture. I'd like to imagine he's in a tree because it kind of looks the same as the trees in the background. Yeah, you know what? My headcanon, some dude climbed a tree to take a picture of the Yamazaki Distillery. I like it. Okay, so from there, he ended up, so while he was in Scotland, he never actually worked for any distilleries. He apprenticed at a few of them, including Longmorn and Hazelburn. So definitely some cool, Hazelburn specifically, cool distillery to work at. He got married in 1920, and then she ended up to a woman named Rita, who ended up living in Japan with him. All right, so then he started the Yamazaki Distillery in 1923 with Shinjiro, sorry, and ran that for a few years, about 10 years, before he decided that he wanted to split off from his partnership and actually went and started Nikka. Now, it's kind of wild to think about. The Yamazaki Distillery is still around. Nikka is, at least on the shelf, one of the more common brands that you're going to see. Definitely consistent quality. And I do have the Nikka coffee grain here with me today, which we'll crack in a little bit. But Shinjiro, I believe, I'd have to double check my notes, but I don't want to just stare at the paper the whole time. I'm pretty sure Shinjiro went on to make this Suntory Toki, and it's just like, even that is popular. So it's cool to think that the history is still around and very much alive. So in the, that's kind of boring. You know, some of these things I write down thinking it's really interesting, but like, in the 50s and 60s, there was a rise in whiskey consumption in Japan. Okay, who cares? You know? One thing that is interesting is most whiskeys that are made in Japan are made of one of 2 things. Either Japanese barley, or a lot of times they'll actually be made with rice. Not entirely, but corn is in there as well. But rice is definitely a thing that can enter Japanese whiskey. And I thought that was interesting because we just don't really get a whole lot of that in the States. Some of our American single malts are doing some crazy stuff with, say, like oatmeal or rice. But there's a lot of other little things. I've seen couscous actually one time. That was in San Diego Distillery, actually, which I didn't get to try that one. I think it was still aging. And it was up on a shelf, so I didn't want to ask to try it. Let's see. Obviously, a lot of us will probably remember, if you've been drinking whiskey for a while, that Yamazaki ended up winning kind of like the world, I forget what it was. It might have been Whiskey Advocate. It might have been just some other award, but it was one of the awards that people actually pay attention to. And Yamazaki 12 ended up getting like best whiskey in the world. Now, this was roughly, I want to say it was around the time I started the channel. So we're talking, I would guess it was probably a couple years before, or maybe a year before. So call it 2013, 2014, something like that. And Yamazaki kind of paved the way for the world stage for everybody to just decide that they loved Japanese whiskey. And that's why we see such high prices on it today. Oh, the Anaconda swirl. Okay. I'll show you. You know what I'll do? Just for the heck of it, I'm going to pour the Nikka, because I'm going to pour the Kanosuke, but I'd like to not have that be my first sip of the day. So this is the Food Quig Anaconda swirl. I'm going to move this away a little bit. He would instead of just kind of going like this, he did like I can't even really do it, but he would like rotate his whole hand around the thing, and that's what happens when I try to do it. I spill whiskey. But he was really good at it, and he didn't look nearly as robotic as I did. So let's see. We got drinking Hazelburn. Oh, nice, Cliffy. That's great. I'm a little jealous, actually. Quig got his whiskey channel up to 26K subs, and his one video. Yeah. So I guess I won't spend too much time on this, but that video always bothered me. For those of you that don't know, it's Food Quig's most popular video. It's like 3.4 million views. I think I was looking at it just yesterday or the day before. And the internet knows it as like man reviews Lefroy 10 while wife leaves him. So couple things. It wasn't his wife, it was his girlfriend. So that was number one. Number two, it was not entirely out of the realm of possibility for him to be streaming while that kind of thing happened. They were already on the way out. You know, I didn't know them personally, but I just know the story. They were on the way out. It's not like her saying I'm leaving. By the way, she was just going to the store. She actually didn't leave right that minute. Like that wasn't her leaving for good. She was just going to the store or to like pack something. Anyway, everybody thinks the wrong thing about that video. And although yes, it's a sad thing to see because the guy is kind of like out of it and just doesn't care. But yeah, that it was wildly misconstrued what that video actually was. All right. This one's to Quig. All right. Cheers, everybody. It's been a while since I've had Nikka. It's just really, really heavy caramel and vanilla and oak. It's certainly not bad. It almost tastes like a little bit Canadian to me in the way the caramel tastes. But we're not going to talk too much about Nikka. I will get back to that one eventually because I have that kind of further along the way. That's the best part. She was just leaving for the grocery. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the whole thing was silly. All right, moving on. So many of you know that the laws around Japanese whiskey changed a few years ago, back in 2021. It was actually, I believe it was April of 2021. They announced that all Japanese whiskey has to be entirely made in Japan. And the reason that they did this is there were a lot of brands that were actually importing from Scotland, and specifically Ben Nevis was a big one. They were, I'm trying to remember which brand it was. I want to say it wasn't Hibiki. Oh, I know exactly what it was. Well, one of the things. So Nikka from the Barrel actually won a huge award as well as being one of the top whiskeys of the year. And the funny thing is I still have that bottle, but I didn't put it on the shelf here because technically it's not Japanese whiskey anymore, or it's not Japanese whiskey. So everything has to be made in Japan. But part of the problem is that there is only so much Japanese barley to go around, and that causes problems. But what that also does is it kind of reduces how many distilleries there can be. And some of the larger names, the reason that Yamazaki and Toki and a few of the other ones are still around, Nikka, are because nobody can grow. You can't really start up too many new distilleries. Now there are a couple of newer ones. There's one called Chichibu, which is fairly newer, but they're more just doing kind of strange stuff to the whiskey. They're really known for their single barrels. And then there's another one, the name escapes me at the moment, but their whole thing is basically making whiskey at really high altitudes. So there is a little bit of room, but my guess is the families that started those distilleries probably had quite a bit of money, and that's why they were able to even do it. Okay, so all right, let's see. Moving along, I want to. I just don't want to talk about the regulations anymore. I feel like that's all kind of just done. Okay. So a couple of things that you can look for when you are actually dealing with Japanese whiskey and you're wondering if it's real or fake. I will actually show you all this. So in the case of, say, these Konosukes, you'll see that it says right in the middle there, Japanese whiskey. And that is what's important. It needs to say Japanese whiskey. In the adverse, you have something like the Yamato, whoops, not that one, in this button, where, I guess it's hard to see. At the bottom there, it says product, or it says made in Japan. Yeah, product of Japan. Sorry, I brought this on stream. A couple people suggested I bring this here in case anybody wanted a super chat to punish me because this whiskey's pretty terrible. So I guess I'll throw that challenge out there. If there's a super chat, I will drink a little bit of that. Super chat, drink some of that. All right, so yeah, so that kind of put a stop to a lot of the crappy practices of just not actually having your own whiskey and calling it Japanese whiskey. But part of the reason that they did that is because Japanese whiskey was selling for so much. So of course there's going to be people faking it. I mean, it makes sense, and that's kind of a tale as old as time. We did it here in the States as well. Okay, so let's move on to some tasting because I want to drink some whiskey. So I'm going to start off. What if the super chat means a more punishing bottle? I'm sure it's not the worst thing you have opened. No, of course not. I think tonight it's going to be this guy, only because I feel like keeping it in the same realm, because I know what you're talking about. You want me to drink Proper 12 or Johnny Walker Red, and I just don't want to. Okay, so we're going to start off tonight. We're going to start off with the Kanosuke single malt. Now, Kanosuke, let's talk a little bit about the distillery that they have there. It's kind of a little bit unique. So what they have is, I grabbed a picture of this. So this is their distillery. It's on the beach, which is awesome. And it's about a 9,000 square foot parcel of land with the distillery on it. Now, this distillery has 3 stills. Sorry, I forgot the word still for a minute. This distillery has 3 different stills, and they all have different angles to their line arms, as well as a different shaped like angle, or whatever you want to call it. So what that will do is it will change the flavor of everything. It will condense differently, and that will give it all a different character. So what they do is the single malt is made from one of them. The next one that we're going to talk about is called the Hyoki, which is made in a pot still. However, it's not a copper pot still. It's a stainless steel pot still. And the reason they do that is because Kanosuke used to make... Sorry, there's kids in my house, and it just got really, really loud. I actually thought that they had left. Kanosuke used to make soshu, or possibly still does. I don't think that they do. So they had this thing hanging around, and it was what they used to use. So they're like, hey, we can make whiskey using this same big old pot still. So that's going to be kind of neat, trying that in a stainless steel pot still. And I'm curious because I really do like the copper pot still spice you get in a lot of Irish whiskeys, but it shouldn't have that. So I'm interested to taste this. I have not actually tasted any of these, by the way. These are all first tastes, so that'll be really fun too. And then the last one here is called Double Distillery, which is a little bit of a weird name because what it actually is these two mixed together and blended together. So all of this to say that this should be a pretty cool thing as long as it tastes good. I really hope it tastes good because a lot of times I try these things ahead of time. That way, if it doesn't taste very good, I don't embarrass the distillery, I guess, or just, kind of trash somebody who gave me something for free. But it's a live stream. Anything could happen. All right. So let's go ahead and try the single malt. Cheers. Sorry, whoops. So this is what I'm drinking, actually. Sorry, I meant to put that up ahead of time. And these are the metrics around it. So the Kanosuke single malt's 48% ABV. It was released in 2024. Actually, only probably about 4 months ago, I want to say. They have been doing this since 2021. They've been releasing this. This particular one was released in 2024. And it's a no-age statement, but it's believed to be about 3 to 5 years, and it's made from malted barley. Okay. So... get rid of that. Sorry, I actually have a stream deck, so I can do a lot of this stuff a little easier in the future. I just didn't have time to set it up for today. All right, let's have another sip of that. And I can tell you already it's not bad, so I'm very relieved. So let's have another sip. Cheers. I do like that. It's the ABV sneaks up on you just a tad, which lends itself in my mind a little bit to the younger age. It's not a burn. It's just not mellow yet, which is actually kind of funny because I believe that their distillery's motto is mellow field, mellow whiskey or something like that. Doesn't matter. So some of the flavors I'm getting here are ginger, for sure, which is, it's cool to get that. So ginger and pear, vanilla for sure. Actually, there was something I forgot to mention. This is, sorry, I wrote this down because it was worth remembering, and of course I forgot it. So this ages in ex-mellowed Kozuru rice shochu casks, sherry casks, and ex-bourbon barrels. So you can probably not necessarily picture what that first one tastes like, but you can picture an ex-bourbon, ex-sherry barrel with ginger. That might be the closest way I could compare this to a thing that you might be able to recognize. What is this? Oh, Alex is going crazy. I'm not saying it's good, but it's okay. If Bill face disagrees. Oh no, I'm sorry. My face. If I made a face, it was only because I forgot to put a graphic up. I actually do like the taste of this a lot. I think that, like I said, I think the ABV is just like a little tad too high, but it's not unpleasant, and it might just be because it's the first whiskey I'm drinking today. It didn't need to grow on me, but it is actually getting better the more I drink it too. Nothing new is opening up though, as far as flavors go. The nose kind of matches the flavor. There is ginger in the nose. Not really any vanilla though. And maybe something a little floral in there as well. Something sweet as well. Just say as well some more. Everything about this is like a little above middle of the road. Like, it's enjoyable, but it's not like blowing my mind. That said, the fact that this has this kind of like cool barrel aging to it is interesting. I don't know that I think I've only had shochu one time. Actually, my neighbor brought it over when he moved in. He brought me that because I told him all about my whiskey. He was like, "Oh, I have a thing for you." So that was kind of fun. All right, let's move along though. I'd like to try some of these other ones, and I'm actually really interested to try the third one. That's the blend of the two. But let's check out what's going on in the chat here. Excuse me. Oh, the face I made. No, the face I made for Red Label was more of me vomiting. Let's see. I wouldn't buy it at a bar. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. Let's do it, Bill. He'll drink red for every $100 super chat. Yes, I will drink whatever you want if you donate a $100 super chat. Okay. Ooh, this one has like pressure. Wow, that's interesting. One thing that occurred to me earlier today as I was kind of setting up for this stream, it's really cool when you think about like our hobby that we've all chosen here of drinking whiskey. Even if you are buying bourbon, just the thought that bourbon was made, hundreds or thousands of miles away from you is cool. But when you really think about Japanese whiskey, like, this came over on a boat. Like, this didn't fly here. This probably spent months on a boat, or at least weeks. And it's just cool what we have to do in order to get something that we're drinking just to kind of get a little buzz. But we like to say that we're enjoying the flavor, which we do, of course. But it's interesting to think of how much has to go into getting this whiskey over to me. And just interesting. So I don't know. It's a shower thought, I suppose. Okay, so this is the Hioki pot still. It's 51%. Sorry, let's go with this. And of course, that's not. Come on. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I actually preloaded all of these videos so it wouldn't do exactly that, but oh well. So that's the pot still. This one is 51% ABV, released in 2024. It's 3+ years, but no age statement, and it's malted and unmalted barley. Okay, let's go ahead and give this a taste. Cheers. Ooh, that's really fun. Ooh, I like this one a lot. This reminds me of, it's a Scotch, and I'm trying to place it. something good though. Like maybe almost like an old Pulteney, like the older version, like the 17. Yeah, wow, I think that's what I would compare it to. Very cool though. Before they did the label change and did the new ages and kind of bleh, but the older Old Pulteney is what I would consider this. So this is New American White Oak ex bourbon. It's let's see if I can pick out some stuff here for you. Oh, I just like this one a lot. Okay. Well, so far this one would definitely be the one I would encourage you to pick up. I like this a lot. Sorry, I should give you something. Okay. Oranges for sure. Honey, like more like a honeycomb. Cause there is a little bit of like a waxy feel to the mouth. So I'm going to go that way. It's a little woody on the finish, but not bad. It's actually fairly light. I know what it is. I was kind of like feeling like there was something nutty about this, but I'm like, it's not hazelnuts. It's not like walnut, but I think it's almonds. So that's what I would give it. It's got a little bit of that ginger as well. And I'm almost wondering if the ginger taste is coming somehow from their location, because it seems strange that both of these would have that same flavor. The first one technically was lightly peated, but I didn't really taste any smoke in it. However, this one is not peated at all, and I also don't taste any smoke in it. So it's not that. But knowing that they are drying it using peat, or actually I guess potentially not, I have no idea what would give it a ginger flavor. I'm sure there is some chemical somewhere in one of the barrels that they used, but this one's using American oak and ex-bourbon barrels. I don't know. I'm going to have to research and find out what chemical would give a ginger-like flavor. Bill Nye the Whiskey Guy. Love it. For those of you that joined late, by the way, if you think about it, rewatch the very, very beginning of this. There's this new song that I added onto kind of the waiting thing, which is pretty awesome. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay. Let's try one more sip. There's like this orange that's coming out a lot more. I think I originally just said citrus, or maybe I said lemon. Maybe I said orange. I don't know, but orange is starting to really take over. The ginger is definitely under there. It almost gives like a bite, but the orange is starting to prove it like much more heavy. Yeah, I like that. It's almost like a marmalade kind of flavor. Cool. I don't know. I like this one a lot. Like I would definitely drink this one. I would personally buy that bottle. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay. Now, just thinking about the way those two taste together, I absolutely have no idea what this third one is going to taste like. Just thinking about it being a blend, somebody's going to have to think about like the people at the distillery would have had to try to think, these both are good. How can I make them better by combining them? I don't think I would have thought to do that, other than just, I guess I don't know. I do that here at the table all the time. I mix things all the time. But I don't think I would have thought to mix them thinking I would get something better than the sum of its parts. So let's see. Maybe I will. All right. So this one is the... that's so disappointing. Like I bothered to shoot B-roll and it's just not, it's like bleh. What is that shite? All right, there we go. I know you guys don't even care, but like this would be good to just do while I'm talking about it. But when it takes my attention like that, it's like not worth it. Anyway, so this one is 53% ABV. So we're getting a little higher up there. Oh, by the way, that last one carried the ABV better than the first one. Released again in 2024, no age statement, 3 to 5 years, and malted barley. So the same as the first one. And I guess it's more of a combination. So, ooh, it smells very different. Much more fruity, but not like grapes or strawberries or anything. It's more like almost like a cantaloupe or like a honeydew. Very, very sugary. New American White Oak, ex-bourbon, ex-sochu, sherry cask. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Oh, I love the smell on this. It's like smelling powdered sugar, or like pixie dust, or pixie sticks. Yummy. All right, cheers, everybody. Okay. I see what you're doing there. Kind of. So, okay. I mean, I can tell you right now, I don't like this one as much as the second one. The second one is definitely blowing me away. What I think is not to my liking about this one is it has this kind of like a deeper flavor that's almost like a really dry red wine. And I like red wine fine. But in this, it doesn't really do much because it kind of takes over the flavor of everything else. Interesting. Let's see, what is this? Not meaning to dictate how long you stream, and I apologize for the assumption. If it were up to me, you'd be going for hours. I don't even know what you were talking about, but how long are you planning on going? About another 25. Yeah, I mean, I typically aim for an hour. I'll be honest, I'll probably go a little bit longer tonight, but likely not more than like 15 minutes over. I know that Matt from ADHD Whiskey streams after me, and I'm not competing with him. So I will lose. Okay. This one's my least favorite of the three. I don't think it's doing much. It's almost like it's doing too much. What this tastes like, actually, you know what? I know exactly how to describe this. When you guys see me do my bottle flights where I'm doing like a vertical or something where I'm like, here's all of the green spots or here's all of the whatever else I've done, all the old granddads. And then at the end of those, I just mix everything together. Like sometimes those are okay, but this just tastes like that. It tastes, I'm sure that they knew what they were doing and I'm sure that they're proud of what they made. For me personally, this feels like it was not done on purpose. It feels like it's just like, oh, let's mix these two together. I'm sorry if that's insulting, and I'm sure that they're probably going to watch this, so I feel a little bad about it, but that's my impression. Now, what I will say is that middle one is like amazing. Now, somebody in the chat actually, Piper mentioned that they saw this online and it was $204. Now, that's not what they have as the MSRP, and my guess is that it's so high only because it's it's supposed to be $109.99. So first off, don't buy it from that place. Second, my guess is that it's just not here yet. So when this does become available, like me personally, not this little guy, but like a full-size bottle, absolutely all day, I would pay $110 for it. I wish I could do a better job of explaining how delicious this one is. That would definitely be my choice of the three. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about Nikka. So I wish I had a Yamazaki on hand because it'd be kind of cool to taste all through Japanese history. I haven't had a Yamazaki since like 2015 or 2016. Am I going to be the devil on your shoulder? Of course I am. So actually, Alex, tell me what you're drinking now, and then I'll tell you what you should drink next. And that'll be fun too, because you get to punish me. I sometimes get to punish you. All right, let's go back to this Nikka here. Kanosuke, I would say, actually, let me even just give a wrap up, because as I mentioned, they sent me these. I should do right by them. By the Hioki, Hioki. Just like, trust me on that one. You will love this. I don't know about the single malt. I think it needs a little bit more time. That would be my suggestion. I just think the ABV takes over a little bit more than it should. And I think if that were a little bit more mellow, some of the better flavors would come out. So I would give the single malt, like, let's see, if it's between 3 and 5 years, I think I would love to taste it at 10, but that's a waste. I would like to taste it at 8. I think that would be good. And then personally, I would just skip the double distillery, but that could be the kind of drink that somehow grows on you. Just at the moment, I'm not sure. I feel like it's not worth what is likely a higher price. Let me double check that. Yeah, it's only 120, so it's only $10 more. But so the single malt is $100. The Hioki is 110, or Hioki, and then the double distillery is 120. All right. So going back to the Nikka here. So as I mentioned, Nikka was Masataka's second distillery that he started, and it was awesome. It's awesome because what they did was they ended up using the coffee still, which many of you will know is a vertical still. It's typically used, you might know it as the continuous still, and it's used when you have to make a lot of something, which makes sense, continuous. So with the normal still, you put all of the stuff into it, you boil it, and then maybe you cycle it once or twice, double, triple distilled. But typically you're going to have to like clean it out afterwards and do all this other stuff. With a continuous still, you actually can run it continuously, and it's got just a whole different type of working, and I'll save that for another time when I feel like explaining all of that. But it runs continuously. It's meant for volume, and these guys were one of the first to use it. Now, there's a guy named Aeneas. That's a tough name. Aeneas or something like that. Coffee. And he was the one that came up with this, and then, it came over, and a lot of people use it. Anus coffee. I think that's what coffee is typically meant to make you do, right? All right, Talisker 8. Still, I'm sneakily waiting until you wind down, then going to guilt trip you into Jim Beam Black. Well, I'm not going to be drinking Jim Beam Black tonight. Like I said, keeping it Japanese. Okay, so with Nikka, let's see. Sorry. I'm just double checking. Okay. Now I kind of already told you about all that. He ended up meeting up with Shinjiro Tori, and they started Nikka, and et cetera, et cetera. So the idea with Nikka coffee grain is this is very caramel. It is heavy caramel, and so much so that it tastes Canadian to me. But I don't dislike this one like I dislike a lot of the Canadian whiskeys. It's just not something I think I would drink every day. What's up, Steve? Nice to see you. So I'm actually just going to put that one to the side. Now, here's another one that's a little bit interesting. Well, yeah, what the hell? I'll go. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. I want to take a quick little break, not a real break, but a break from doing this. We're going to go over. We're going to do a little quizzy. Once the video begins to play there we go. Okay. So we're going to do a little quiz. It should be fun. So these are going to be A through D as far as multiple choice answers, and type into the chat what you think your answer is, and then we will go. So question number 1, what is considered the birthplace of Japanese whiskey production? Is it A, Kyoto, B, Osaka, C, Yamazaki, or D, Sapporo? I'm not hating on Canada. I mean, I'm not hating on Canada, hating on Canadian whiskey. But that's nothing new. All right, I'm dying to see some of you guys. Let's see. Osaka, we got a B, we got an A. Kyoto. All right, so let me just get over here. Good for me. I didn't write down the answers. I know the answers at least. Okay. So in this case, the answer is C, Yamazaki. That was the birthplace of Japanese whiskey production. I've mentioned that a few times in this stream, so that one should have been a little easy. All right. Do you guys want another question? I think we'll go to number 2, and then we'll see if maybe we'll save question number 3 for later. All right. So Japanese whiskey often uses which specific features of production that reflects Scotland's influence? Peat smoking the malt, aging in maple barrels, adding rice mash during fermentation, or distilling at lower altitudes? Let me know what you think, and I'm going to sip on this Nikka. So tell me what you guys have at home as far as Japanese whiskeys. Have you dabbled at all? Like, it's definitely still feels like a bit of a new thing, even though Japanese whiskey's been around for a little while. Feels like the kind of thing that not a whole lot of people have really dipped their toes into. All right, let's see. Yeah, this one was easy. Not distilling at lower altitudes, although Scotland does tend to, kind of skirt that line, I suppose. But peat smoking the malt, actually, it's interesting. A lot of Japanese whiskey distilleries smoke their malt with peat. And I was very surprised to learn that, only because it's kind of like, I guess it makes sense when you consider the origin of coming from Scotland or the learning to make it from Scotland. But where are they getting their peat? They must have been importing it, right? So, all right, so no Japanese as of yet. Okay. I've had Mars Hawaii, Mars was the one I couldn't remember earlier, and liked it, but also Yamazaki 12. The Yamazaki was good from memory, but it's just so darn expensive. Totally agree with you. I really wish that Yamazaki was cheaper, because I would buy that. That would be like a stock it for me, even if it was like $80. I would just always want to have that one. And I don't have any Japanese whiskey yet. Okay, that's fine. Not a problem. All right, let's do the third one. All right. What is unique about the water often used in Japanese whiskey production? This one's good. I'm curious if you guys will get it. Is it A, it's sourced from volcanic springs, B, it's infused with green tea, C, it's collected from cherry blossom rainfall, or D, it's purified using bamboo filters? The answer may surprise you. I kind of just want to keep drinking the Hioki. D, A. Oh, let's see. What do you got? Kikori. Yep. Hibiki, Suntory Toki. That's about it. Well, Hibiki's pretty good. Suntory Toki is fine. And Kikori, I don't remember having too much problem with, other than I feel like it didn't used to be made to a quality that would have been considered Japanese whiskey. I don't know if it is now. Probably D, but C would be cool. That would be very cool if they could collect enough water from cherry blossoms to distill whiskey. The answer is actually A. It's sourced from volcanic springs. I would have probably guessed D myself, but I don't know. I thought that was interesting. So it's sourced from volcanic springs. A lot of Japan, Japan is an island, and it's formed from volcanoes, like most things. And they've got that one big volcano, Kilimanjaro, right? No, that's not right. What is the name of that? Yeah, it's Is it Kilimanjaro? I'm confusing it between that and the one in Africa. It's not Kilimanjaro, is it? I think it might be. What is the name of the big volcano in Japan? I toured Kanosuke the other day. Really? It's a really beautiful distillery. Wow, it is Mount Fuji. Thank you. I really couldn't get it out of my head that it was the other one. It's Mount Everest. Well, that's about as dumb as Kilimanjaro, so I'll give you that. Okay, let's pop back over here. All right, so now we're gonna go into the Toki, and then I'm gonna go into something that's not technically Japanese whiskey. So we're gonna have the Suntory Toki. Which I bet that man, there needs to be a way to like preload these videos. That way they don't do that. So it's like I walked really slowly around this thing, and it's a little shaky, sure, but I still, oh, I know exactly what it was. No, that's not right. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. So we're going to go with the Toki. Suntory Toki. Here we go. So Suntory Toki is actually mostly used as a mixer. A lot of people use it for highballs. And because of that, it doesn't carry a ton of flavor, but it's also pretty well received, and it's a pretty high-selling whiskey from Japan. So it's 44% ABV, released first in 2016. However, it's existed in some form since before that. It's no age statement, and it's a blend of whiskeys from Suntory's Hakushu, Yamazaki, and Chita distilleries. So yeah, you kind of nailed it, Alex. So Alex says that it's Toki is a whiskey that he originally liked, but feels like he outgrew it. And I totally hear you on that. It's simple. And because of that, it's a great one to start with, but it's not a great one to stick with. So. It does smell pretty good though. It's got, a definitive lemon smell to it. Smells fresh. Smells maybe subtle wood. Now, I thought this was interesting, so I wrote this down. So of the 3 different whiskeys that this is a blend of, the Hakushu, it's the main component of Toki is a light, delicate whiskey from Hakushu's younger malts, aged in American white oak. Then from Cheetah, it's a heavier grain whiskey from Cheetah, provides base notes of vanilla and cocoa. And then a minor component of Toki consisting of malts, single malts aged in American and Spanish oak come from Yamazaki. It was nice to actually have that kind of detail. And that is actually something I have seen consistently with Japanese whiskeys, especially since the law changed. They are very open about what is in their whiskey. And that makes my job so much easier. I usually have to scour for these like little details. Like you see me put up on my videos every week where I'm like, the mash bill is this and the ABV is that and the age is this. Sometimes it takes me like 20 minutes to find that information because I'm just hunting all around the internet. And I guarantee you I've gotten some of them wrong because sometimes it's just people guessing. But, if it's a guess, I usually say something. But it's interesting how long that takes me sometimes. All right. Cheers. So, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of meh. It tastes almost like... You know what it tastes like? It tastes like my wife has all these like sparkling waters upstairs. Not sparkling waters. I don't know what you'd call them. They're like seltzer waters. And they always have these weird ass flavors. So it kind of tastes like that. And I could absolutely see why you'd want to put some just soda water in this. I actually think it would taste fantastic with some soda water and some ice. So, if you want to try that, it probably might not be the worst way to introduce somebody to whiskey. One thing that you really appreciate about, whoops, that's the wrong one. Sorry. The one thing I really appreciate about Japanese whiskey is their blending abilities. That's from Mr. Greatshot. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm just thinking about it like there's so much similarity between Scotland and Japan. In the whiskey making. Now, they've had enough time to kind of come up with their own thing, but they really haven't. But then again, there's only so much you can do with whiskey, I suppose. Clearly, Scotland blends a lot of whiskey. So, it makes sense. Either way, I would agree. Some of the blends I've had out of Japan are fairly good. So, let's actually move on to the second to last whiskey of the night. This one is also a blend. So this one is called Matsui, and it's the single malt. So I'm sure that this isn't going to work again. Yep, of course not. Okay, whatever. That's so disappointing. Well, whatever. Stream will only improve as I do them going forward. So this is a single malt Japanese whiskey. Now, here's the thing. This whiskey here is not in focus, but the one I have is an older bottle from them before they stopped importing. No, I'm sorry. Let me restate. The distillery that makes this was very well known for importing from Scotland. This bottle was the first time that they tried to make their own stuff. And when I did my review of this bottle, I believe it was back in 2018. No, it would have been after. It was right before the pandemic. So it was some point in 2019, I bet. They started making their own whiskey, and they sent this over to me, and boy, did I not enjoy it. And I think I know why. So when you make a whiskey using Mizunara oak, I have expectations of your whiskey. And if you don't live up to those expectations, I tend to personally judge very harshly, because Mizunara is rare. It's hard to use, which fair. But if you don't use it well, like that could have been in something better. And one of the best whiskeys I've had that was aged in Mizunara oak was actually from Glendalough, which is an Irish whiskey, and fantastic whiskey. There's only a handful of whiskeys that age anything in Mizunara, and most of them don't do it well. So I tend to be a little pissed off when they don't, because I know that people wait for those barrels. Like, for example, what is it? I think it was this one. I think it was A Tale of Ice Cream from Glenmorangie, or maybe. No, I'm dumb. All right, sorry. I'm dumb. It was A Tale of Tokyo, of course. A Tale of Tokyo was a Glenmorangie that they later aged in Mizunara oak, and Dr. Bill, who is like world renowned, had to wait something like 20 months to get 20 barrels, which, if that dude has to wait, then I don't know who's getting them, but they're definitely rare. Okay, let's get back to the Matsui, because I'm actually very curious if this one is like bad. It very well might be. Ugh. Yep, still bad. Ugh. It's just bleh. Okay. What is it? Because this has a similar flavor in some ways to like Proper 12, where it just, if whiskey could be sour, that's what it would taste like. But it's not a sour flavor. It's like it feels like it went bad, or that it just didn't finish cooking. Oh man, it's still so bad. No wonder I have so much of this left. There's gonna come a day where I'm done with all this and I have to tackle everything behind me, and I bet that this is gonna be one of the last bottles that I drink, or maybe I just mix it with like Coke or something to get rid of the taste. But man, this is a bad bottle of whiskey, and no, I'm not having more of that. Ugh. All right, so I'd love to say that I was moving on to something better, but I'm not going to. I'm going to move on to this guy. It just feels like the right way to stop this stream, I suppose. This is a bottle that I bought that actually got me on a bit of a tirade. Yeah, I don't like drain pours. I feel like it's wasteful, because I guess I know people that probably would appreciate a crappy whiskey, and just drink it if I gave it to them, but I don't know. It's going to come to Sydney, Canada. I don't get that. Anyway, so this little guy right here is called the Yamato, and it is a product of Japan. And I bought this, I believe it's even 40%. I bought this because of the decanter, right? This is undeniably cool looking, and that should usually tell you something about the whiskey. If you're buying a whiskey that looks like a baseball or looks like a Derringer, which is something I've done, or just has a really cool looking decanter, if the price doesn't match what you think that you should be paying, or a gold bar, yes, use it to clean toilets or windows. That's actually not a bad idea. So if it doesn't match what you think that you should be paying, the old adage of you get what you pay for is very true with whiskey. I do love the bottle. It's just the whiskey. I remember it not being good, but I do remember the Matsui being worse. So maybe this isn't so bad, but let's find out together. So the little bit of data I could collect on, oh, look, the video's actually working. Look at how cool that looks. The little bit of information that I was able to get on the Yamato is nothing. It's 40% ABV and it's not real whiskey. Even the video that I recorded on this thing, I didn't have a whole lot of information on it. I think I mostly was just warning people about buying fake whiskeys. Ah, yes, smells like paint thinner. With a hint of lemon pledge. Ugh. Can I just not? Like, I suppose I could. I could just not. But that wouldn't be right to you. All right, cheers, everybody. I'm unhappy about this. Oh. It's not as bad as the Matsui, but it's bad in a different way. I don't like it. Why do I keep doing? Why can't I just have a stream where I drink delicious whiskeys? Oh, you know, that one should. I should have another like terrible whiskey showdown, and I should add that Matsui to it. I might kind of like progressively go through my whole collection. Oh, fine, Alex. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. I guess since I'm technically done drinking Japanese whiskey, I keep the Jim Beam Black right behind me there, Alex, just because of you. I've actually been waiting to review this, and I still haven't. Just haven't gotten around to it. But at least this will take the flavor out of my mouth. Now, before I do this, I do want to just thank Kansuki for sending these over to me. And let me get rid of that. I do want to thank them for sending these over to me. And I do honestly, like, honest to God, you guys should pick up the Hioki. I really, really couldn't recommend that one enough. I think that you will love the flavor. And the fact that it is out of a stainless steel pot still is just kind of unique. Everything about it's really cool. So definitely try that one out. All right. Here is to all of you for showing up to the stream. Appreciate you visiting. And I hope that you all have a great rest of your night. I'm going to drink this not Johnny Walker. You got me thinking Johnny Walker Red. I'm going to drink this Jim Beam Black and get this taste out of my mouth. So cheers, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And I'll see you next week. Cheers for like the 18th time.